各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄。一份2023年全球住屋可負擔性排名當中溫哥華緊隨香港同悉尼位列第3。唔少人會同父母或者係親朋一齊居住，分擔房屋上面嘅開支。但係近年嚟，溫哥華就開始咗一個新嘅趨勢，就係同陌生人一齊購買房屋，並且係共同負擔貸款等一切同房屋產業相關嘅事宜。喺卑詩省 Horseshoe Bay岸邊就有一個物業，由8個人共同融資購買，佢哋每個人都係屋主。等我哋一齊去聽聽佢哋嘅故事啊！喺大溫地區，幾代人嘅大家庭喺一棟房屋居住並唔稀奇，但係8個陌生人共同集資購買一個房屋產業，又係咪比較少見呢？
Normally, people do it the other way. They get a group together, they get all that sorted, they get their legal structure, then they go looking for a property. We had the property, we had to go in reverse and try to get the group.
到底點樣先至能夠同咁多陌生人和平共處，處理房屋嘅一切事宜呢？
Endless meetings.
唔係做咁樣嘅決定之前，必定要有精密嘅權衡同埋勇氣。
The reward is far greater than the risk when you do a project like this. So I took a really calculated risk. And I learned through the process that you have to use your instincts, trust your gut, trust your heart.
喺 Horseshoe Bay 呢一塊靠海嘅土地上，建築有8座100年歷史嘅小屋。該房屋喺2021年掛牌出售，最終呢一塊同海港只係幾步之隔嘅房屋，由8個有共同意願、年齡介乎喺30幾至60幾歲嘅買家，經過複雜嘅過程，成為共同業主。每個人都有咗自己嘅小屋同埋花園，共同承擔貸款、維修、保養費用。屋主 Heidi 沿路介紹一棟棟呢啲被油上唔同顏色嘅小木屋。
So this is Maples. I'll just close this door. Just gonna close this door. You can come say hi if you want. Maples is getting a big refresh right now. And this is alders. And we still have some of the cute little signs that they were around back in the day. Some of them are missing, so we'll make some new ones. And this is Matt's house. We have a lot of debates over what color this is.
Maybe.
See, everybody has a different relationship with this color. Yeah. I think it's really coastal. You know, it's a good color for a coastal cabin. Yeah. And so we have shared laundry in there. That's why the washboard is on there. And this is hemlock. And Matt's is called cedars. And he's always got lots of renovation stuff stashed on his porch and in his house. And this is called Rockaway Cottage. And I don't know what the thought process was that, but it's got the best deck. It's got a real surfy, like surfer feeling. Maybe because just of the name makes me think of that. We can peek around the corner. Here's our little shed. So that's where we store our, all the things that your dad would keep in his shed in the garden. We have that times 10. Don't go too far. Yeah, you want to go see Bailey's up there? And this is Mountain View. This is the final cottage on this property.
走入位於另一邊嘅小屋，就係 Heidi 嘅屋企。
Hi, come on in. This is Comet. Come on, boy. Come on. Hi. This is my little cottage. Haven't decided what its name will be yet.
Heidi 表示，前業主喺2021年嘅夏季退休，並且計劃出售呢一度嘅物業。而作為原租客之一嘅 Heidi 就有意購買，咁但係又冇咁多嘅資金全部買落嚟，於是就聯繫咗名為 Coho BC 嘅房地產經紀機構，並開始研究集體購買房屋嘅可能性。
I was living here when my landlord put the properties on the market. And I had just moved in and I was really starting to feel comfortable, and I realized that Horseshoe Bay is a really wonderful place to live. It's a real village, and I've got 2 young kids, so it was the perfect place for them to run around and walk to school and play in the woods. And so I wanted to try and make this place a home if possible. So I started talking to people and thinking about ways that we can make this our permanent home.
經過地產機構舉行開放日以及房屋參觀活動，進行過多次嘅對話，而揾到合適共同承擔呢一個物業嘅人士。Heidi 最終揾到同佢有相同追求嘅其他房屋買家，佢哋當中有啲人係互相認識，亦都有彼此唔熟悉，甚至係陌生人。當被問及喺決定尋找其他陌生人共同買屋，係咪會有顧慮嘅時候 ，Heidi 就咁樣回應。
You have to learn to trust people, and you have to learn to become trustworthy, and you have to work on all those skills that we don't have in our culture, which is problem solving, dispute resolution. You know, in a normal situation, you don't get along with your neighbor, well, you just ignore your neighbor. But you can't ignore your neighbor here. You have to keep finding a way to get along, to solve your problems, you just have to keep trying and trying. So those are some of the things we've learned.
同 Heidi 最相熟嘅業主 Matt 有時間嘅時候就中意去到 Heidi 屋企傾偈，同 Heidi 嘅狗玩耍。佢更加中意從物業嘅另一邊直通上山，喺嗰度享受一杯咖啡。
Okay, so coming down from the swing, and we can see our first units here, kind of coming down the hill in the cedars here. So you see here we have a unit here with a big deck, and one more below, and this just kind of snakes down to the garden in the middle. And some fruit trees here, apples coming in, things like that.
其實喺以往 Matt 從來未考慮過居住喺呢一個社區。
Well, it's one of those places I never considered living, but when I saw this property, I was like, we have to figure this out. This is incredible. And now that I've been here for a while, it's pretty great.
Matt 亦都係最早成為呢一次共同購置物業嘅買家之一。佢話當時睇到呢一度嘅小木屋嘅時候，佢最睇重嘅就係呢一度雖然係一個物業，但係就有住8間小屋，而且房屋嘅大細非常合適佢自己，每個屋主都有自己嘅空間。Matt 係喺2021年6月第一次見到呢一個物業。佢表示係由於前業主嘅信任，先至能夠令佢哋實現呢一個項目。雖然有房屋經濟師嘅幫助，但係所有屋主都花咗好耐時間，經過無數嘅討論，先至能夠令呢一個多人購買房屋嘅計劃得以實現。
It takes tons of work. It's very complicated to put the deal together. There's the community side of making sure we have the same values and we're doing this for the same reasons and we can get along with people and you know, there's people we want to live beside. The legal structure, that's super important to have that in place before you can go forward. And just trying to figure out financing and how that's going to work. So lots to talk about, lots of details. And of course, amidst all of that, people are dreaming about exciting stuff they want to do on the property. You don't want to not do that because that's what gets people excited and that's a big part of it as well. But the logistics of actually being able to come together and close, endless meetings, tons of meetings.
而對於同咁多唔熟悉嘅人，甚至係陌生人共同購買一個物業 ，Matt 就表示佢從一開始就冇太多嘅擔憂。
That's a really common question with this situation. Personally, no. Having a good lawyer, good legal structure is super important to protect you. And just trust. Coming from a place of trust and trusting the people that it's going to work out, it's going to be okay. So no, I don't worry about that. This is a property that, like the previous owner, took care of this. He did all this landscaping for 30 years, basically wore himself out. I don't want to have this property by myself. I would rather do it with a group. So it's not a sacrifice. It's like, I would much rather do this with a group of people. So yeah, the trust and all that comes, you build trust over time. So it's fine with me.
喺小徑嘅高處係足球愛好者 Steve 嘅小屋。由於好細就同 Matt 同埋另一位屋主 Ben 熟悉，有住足夠嘅信任，因此對於集體購買房屋冇乜特別擔憂。
I got into the project in January of 2021 because I grew up with Ben and Matt, who you've already met, and so they'd been putting this project together and they needed an investor and I needed a place to live. I'd been living in Whistler, so I moved down to Vancouver and started a new job and moved into the cottage.
佢提到現時高昂嘅房屋價格令佢冇辦法承擔，佢覺得加入呢一個項目係十分正確嘅決定。
It just, it was one of those things where I couldn't afford to buy a place in Vancouver by myself, and my parents didn't have the money to help me buy anything like that. So, and when my friends came to me with the proposition to buy into this, it was a no-brainer.
同佢哋共同購買呢一個物業嘅仲有另一位屋主 Yvette， 佢喺呢一度已經種植咗好多花、果樹以及一啲嘅堅果。
Just about a year, and yeah, I teach in Vancouver and enjoy the summers here and really enjoy the gardening, and we are working on coming together for our communal ideas for our foliage and our fruit garden and lots of different projects on the go.
佢表示，雖然作出咗集體買屋嘅決定之後，面對過重重挑戰，咁但係喺呢一度亦都獲得咗友情。
Well, there was a financial benefit, but there was also a communal benefit of knowing your neighbors and having them close by, and common interests. And there's a certain amount of camaraderie, and there's some challenges, and there's these days it's really hard to actually have a neighborhood in which you know your neighbors and can rely on your neighbors. Mm-hmm. And Heidi is amazing as a neighbor.
Oh, so sweet. Oh, she is. You're a wonderful neighbor too.
We get surprise treats all the time.
現時大家共同嘅願望係能夠喺各自繁忙嘅生活之中，多啲創造能夠相聚嘅機會。作為共同業主、共同鄰居，就好似一家人咁樣相處。
And it doesn't hurt to have the odd meal together.
Yeah. Yvette's been great at that. She keeps reminding us that we need to have meals together.
We meet a lot. What's really unfortunate so far is we haven't had a lot of time for just don't talk about the business social time, because we always kind of have some sort of problem or something there's always business at hand, right? So we haven't had enough social time in building our community. In my head, I'm always like, once we're done the renovations, and we'll focus on that, but I don't know if that time will come. There's so much work to do. So yeah, we definitely need more of that than we've had.
下一節返嚟，我哋會去了解一下現時喺本地呢一種同陌生人合份買屋嘅趨勢發展到乜嘢嘅地步，有啲乜嘢注意嘅事項。歡迎返嚟節目時間。雖然本地有專門幫助陌生人去穿針引線嘅房地產經濟機構啊，但係對於潛在嘅買家喺買屋之前有啲乜嘢嘅流程同埋事項需要留意，以確保自身利益唔受到損害啦。除此之外，社會上都有人以投資嘅形式同其他人共同購買房屋，但係投資者本人呢就唔係房屋居住者。咁呢一種嘅模式又係點樣進行嘅呢？點樣做到有足夠嘅保障呢？專門從事共有產權房屋交易嘅房地產經紀人 Norm Dolgen， 平日嘅工作就係幫助有意同其他人合份買屋嘅人穿針引線。佢表示，自疫情之後，同陌生人共同購買房屋逐漸成為咗一種趨勢。
We have helped dozens of people get into groups with strangers, and even more with family and friends. We have a database of about 2,000 people who are interested in this model, so it's definitely something that people are seeing as a pathway.
咁佢平時嘅工作實際會做啲乜嘢呢？
So Coho BC is here to help groups of buyers who are looking to co-buy together. We can guide them through the house acquisition process, but also a lot of the due diligence that needs to be done before you purchase, looking at financial pathways, looking at legal agreements, talking about roles and responsibilities and exit strategy. So we help folks visualize all the pieces before they make the commitment to buy together. And of course, we also have the matchmaking services to help people who don't already have friends or family to go buy with find each other. So our matchmaking services include an online classifieds page. They include a survey people fill out and then get matched by our matchmaker. And we do online and in-person events to meet other potential co-buyers.
Norm 將佢嘅工作任務形容成為婚姻中介一樣，咁將雙方撮合喺一齊。
It is a house dating service, and we do describe the whole process much like a dating, engagement, and marriage phase. So first you date, you find the types of people who'd be a good match for you, and the types of housing that fit your needs, your budget, your area. And then you go through an engagement process where with those people you really get to know them deeply. You discuss your finances, you discuss the likelihood you're going to have to move, your health, and then you move into planning what's basically a prenuptial agreement, right? What you'll do when this process comes to an end. Unlike a marriage, most people are not doing this till death do you part. They do this with a 5, 10, 30-year time frame. And so then the legal agreement really acts like that prenuptial. And then when you've done your proper due diligence, you've had the proper conversations, you feel confident in your partner, then you move to the marriage stage where you actually put an offer on a house, purchase a house, and sign the final legal agreement.
Norm 最近嘅工作就係幫助呢一間房屋尋找另一位合適嘅屋主。該房屋喺7年之前由2位女士共同購買，咁佢哋各自居住喺其中一間房，其中一位出現變化選擇退出，咁但係通過雙方協商，決定唔將房屋出售，而係將其中嘅50%業權轉讓出去，因此就揾 Norm 尋找合適嘅買家。
And so in this case, when people come to see the property, they are looking at buying not just the property, but they're also buying into the partnership, which means getting to know the existing partner who's staying around. And then they date her and go out a few times to make sure they're a good fit. They also have to be confident in the financial arrangement and the structure of the mortgage and in the legal agreement that would bind them all. So when people come through, we present them with the property, with the partner, with the financial arrangements, and with the legal overview. And hopefully through that, they feel confident that this is the right fit for them.
Norm 表示，由於協議喺購買房屋之前就已經非常咁詳細定明日後可能會發生嘅種種變化，以及點樣處理，因此合夥買屋並唔係好似大家想象中咁充滿風險。
But if you use our system, then even if your relationship changes, you have a mechanism to resell your share, you have a mechanism to go to an arbitrator or a mediator to help you resolve those conflicts. And most of those questions are discussed in advance when you're on really good terms so that you know what your plan is. Once things go sour, you already have the plan in place.
除咗同陌生人居住喺一齊共享房屋物業，本地亦都有投資者同陌生人一齊融資買屋，但係就唔住喺房屋入邊，只係進行投資。呢一棟位於新西敏嘅房屋就係由本地投資者 Mark Ting 同好友以及另一個佢哋唔認識嘅家庭喺7年之前共同購買。咁但係 Mark 同朋友都唔居住在內，佢哋做投資決定之前又經歷咗啲乜嘢呢？
I had a ton of concerns. I had a huge list of concerns. Just from my background, I do risk analysis on investments. That's sort of my real job. So going into an endeavor such as this one, which is a large one, I had a whole list of what I had to check off before I was comfortable going into it. So basically, if you're going to go into a relationship which is long-term, like the one we were going to enter in with this family, it's essentially like a marriage. So at the beginning, everyone's happy, everyone's thinking about this beautiful things that will happen in the future, the future is bright. But the reality is when you do risk management, you have to think the opposite way. What about all the bad things? So it's almost like we had to have a prenup before we actually entered into this. So we had to address questions like, what if someone wanted to leave? What if they got divorced? What if one of the partners died? The financial aspects of it. All the devil advocate type questions had to be answered before we were actually comfortable signing off on it and actually going through with it.
對於咁樣嘅投資又有邊方面嘅利弊呢？
The other main thing about the family themselves is they're great partners. So again, having the partner, choosing that right partner is probably the number one key to this success. And the partners that I chose, this family, Well, I didn't know this person at all. I met him the day we actually signed the contract. My friend, who was the realtor in this situation, knew him very well. He sold his previous house, they worked together. So that gave me a lot of peace of mind knowing that my friend vouched for this person, that he was a hard worker, that he would look after the project.
而對於 Mark 嚟講，參與呢一種方式嘅投資，又可能會面對乜嘢負面影響啦？
Some of the negatives are, I'm an investor. It's really hands off for me. But if something happens in my life, I get divorced or I need the money, it's not easy for me to sell that property or my half of that property. Why? Because my neighbors, that's their home. So it's like me sort of twisting their arm to sell that property. So I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So essentially what we did say is it's really they're driving the boat for this case. So they sell when they want to sell. And even if it doesn't work out with our timing, we just go with them because we're not pushing them out. So that's sort of the negatives. I don't have the liquidity as I would if I owned the whole thing. I can't make all these decisions. It's generally a collective. And in this collective, I'm like third down on the tier in terms of who makes that decision.
咁同 Horseshoe Bay 嘅項目一樣 ，Mark 同合夥人喺簽署最終協議嘅時候，亦都準備咗非常詳盡嘅協議書，確保彼此嘅利益。
Almost everything. We wrote down almost every eventuality. So divorce, death, losing of a job, insurance, responsibilities. And the whole purpose of it is life happens. Again, just like marriage, like at the beginning, you think everything's going to be blissful, and we all know it's not. We all know there's a lot of divorces. We all know in business that partners break up, relationships break up. So what we wanted to have, while everybody's on the same page, while everybody likes each other, and we're all like gung-ho, we wanted to write down everything so that if one of those things happens, we can go to the handbook and say, okay, we all agreed to this, and these are the steps we're taking.
咁有人會擔憂同陌生人購買房屋，如果另一方唔及時支付房屋貸款費用，同樣作為房屋擁有者嘅自己，信用評級係咪亦都會受到影響 ？Matt 就咁樣回應。
Not one payment. Like you can miss a payment, I can miss a payment. It won't really affect your credit score. It takes around 3 or 4 payments before the credit scores sort of really notice that. But you're right. I mean, if people stop making their payments, then that's an issue. So I might have to cover them. It's never come to that with us. But yeah, you are vouching for that person's credibility financially and everything. So if they stop making payments and you don't want your credit score to be affected, one time's fine. Like life happens, people make mistakes, banks realize that. But if that happens like consistently or several months in a row, then absolutely your credit score, if you're on the mortgage, will be affected.
Mark 對於有意同其他人購買房屋產業作為投資嘅人，佢嘅建議係唔好將事情諗得過於負面或者過於樂觀，唔應該將一切實際上可能發生嘅事喺投入之前就妥善列出，保障自己利益。咁對於呢一種共同買屋嘅趨勢，卑斯房屋廳長柯爾倫又作出點樣嘅評價呢？
I do like the trend. I think anyone that finds creative ways to be able to get into home ownership is a fantastic idea. There may be some challenges that come with it, where people come in and they buy a property together and they realize, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted to do. What happens in those situations? I think that those things can be thought through before.
社會上之所以出現呢一種買屋模式，歸根究底係因為房屋高企，難以負擔。當被問到呢一個議題，佢又點樣回應呢？
Well, the small-scale multi-unit policy that's coming this fall, where we're going to allow up to 4 units to be built on single-family lots in large areas of the province, will have a major impact. Because I already know young people who are talking about buying a single-family house, tearing it down, and they have 4 friends who are going to come together and build each unit separately, but in one building, so they all can live together in the same building. That makes it more affordable for them to do so. And so that policy, I think, is going to have a massive change and enable this type of co-living in the future.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mag26@fairchildtv.com。如果觀眾想上網重溫翻今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得翻㗎啦。下星期同一時間再同大家見面，晚安。